Hey people of the VC, it's Andy Cloudy Mulder. Competition time again. This time for Ronnie's record room. So Ronnie's called it a simple competition. It is very simple. Just one more, it's called, and it's all about showing albums that you have multiple copies of, either in the same or different formats. I said a simple one, but I started pulling out albums, and I've got a stack here and a stack in front of me as well. And I've tried to. So I've got. There are quite a few albums by bands like Iron Maiden and the Ramones, certainly, and Manic Street Preachers and the Wedding Present, where I've got vinyl and CD versions of pretty much all their albums. So I decided that my criteria for this was that I had to have 3 or more copies of the same album, or different formats or pressings. I'm not really one for buying multiple pressings of the same record. If I've got money to spend, I'll spend it on a new record that I haven't heard before, unless I see something I've already got at a great price, and then I often pick it up with a view to VCLTing it somewhere else. So everything I'm going to show here, apart from a couple of honorary mentions that I've got, I own sort of 3 or more copies in different formats. So let me dive straight in. So I mentioned a couple of honorary mentions. I'm going to start off with 2, and then I'm going to end with 1, if that makes sense. So first up, now this I only have 2 pressings. I have 2 pressings of, and that's Arch. Another return. One's a US pressing, this one. One's a UK pressing. The US pressing I got as a VCLT, actually, from Scott Waters. As you can see, it's called Another Return to Church Hill, but the UK pressing is just called Another Return. Same track listing, same order, slightly different graphics on the back, different typeface, but yeah, so 2 pressings of the same album. Similarly, one of my favourite albums that I've always loved since my teenage years is Appetite for Destruction, and I've got 2 copies of this because I've got the original band cover and the whatever you call that, the skull and crossbones, not skull and crossbones, skulls and cross, maybe. So yeah, so 2 copies of that. So there we go. So now I'm going to do the Ramones stash next. So as I mentioned, there's been a spate of reissues with vinyl of the Ramones recently, and I've picked up and completed my sort of vinyl collection with the Ramones. But there's a couple of them that I've got 3 copies on, rather than just the CD and vinyl that I have for everything else. So first of all is Subterranean Jungle. Now, for a very, very long time, this was the only copy that I had. This is an original CD release. This is probably one of the only Ramones albums that hasn't really had any sort of reissue done to it. I think it was reissued once, either in the late 90s or early 2000s, something like that, and that's all it's had. Bill Helmut Dougie, he took pity on me, and he sent me a copy on VCLT, which was amazing of him. And this is a US pressing, still in the shrink. It's open, but it's still in the shrink, excellent condition. So some other, I think this was a Ramones exhibition. I said that as well, so I just keep that together. So it all came on. And so I've been waiting I could never ever find a copy of this. Went to so many record fairs. Nope, nobody had a copy of it. Somewhere like Discogs, eBay, really expensive, just because there just aren't that many around. And literally 2 weeks after Bill sent me this, in my local record store, up pops a UK pressing of Subterranean Jungle. It's like buses. You wait years for one to turn up, and then 2 turn up at once. So I have 3 pressings of, or 3 versions of Subterranean Jungle. The other ones I have are Originally, these three albums came out back to back from a Ramones point of view, and I was buying cassettes at the time, and that's Loco Live, Acid Eaters, which is their covers album, and Mondo Bizarro, probably one of their best 90s albums, actually. I subsequently went on and got the CDs and vinyls for them. So vinyls? I said vinyls. So these are recent reissues of the records. Actually, I've not opened that one. So Mondo Bizarro, record and CD. Acid Eaters, record and CD. And Loco Live, record on CD. So I have 3 copies of each of those. I'm not that much of a completist that I'm going to pick up Ramones cassettes of the other albums that I've got. I'm happy with what I've got there. Next band is a band that I talk about a lot, doesn't get talked about a lot by One of VC as far as I know, and that's the Manic Street Preachers. My favourite album of theirs, of which I have many favourite albums of theirs, but I guess if I had to narrow it down to one, would be The Holy Bible. I've talked about this many times before. It's a very dark album from them. This was, 1994. This was the original CD copy that I had of it. 2004, they released a 10th anniversary edition. Came was that 2 CD and a DVD set. And I don't think I've actually ever listened to that, to be honest with you. I just had to have it, as you do. And then recently I picked up a reissue of the Holy Bible on vinyl. I think this was a 2015 pressing, so this is like 20 years on from the original. I'd love to have an original of this on vinyl, but Manic Street Preachers original vinyls again. Records go for a lot of money. Next up is, excuse me, hold on. I'll sort me out. Next up is my favourite AC/DC album, and it's probably my favourite AC/DC album because it was the first one I really heard all the way through and connected with. And I originally had that on cassette, and that's High Voltage. And then I've got the remaster on CD and a recent reissue on vinyl. I absolutely love that album. Really gutted to hear about Malcolm Young this week, but his music will live on forever. Now, the album I have the most versions of isn't metal at all. In fact, it's more indie rock. And then again, another band that I've talked about a little bit. I've cut in here and there in amongst the metal, and that's the Wedding Present. And the album is George Best. Only recently I've picked up not one but two copies of George Best on cassette. I was looking at them on eBay, and one of them, and they seem to be going for around £10 or so, and I thought, I don't need it, but I want it, and I picked one up, and I was watching 2, so I got it, and then the other one didn't sell, and it was back on a week later, half price, and for some reason I bought that one as well. So I kind of figured maybe I could sell one of them, or I don't know, why do we do these things? I honestly do not know. I don't have an original CD copy. I would like to pick one up. This is a deluxe copy, so there are 23 tracks in it. Now, I know this album so well that it actually irritates me when the original album ends and all the extra tracks begin. So I'd kind of like to get a CD that I could put on, listen through, and not go into the extra tracks. The extra tracks are good. I mean, there are a lot of singles, 12-inch singles, B-sides on here, which I also have on vinyl as well. So George Best CD. And I would love to get an original copy of this one, but it doesn't go for much less than 20 quid, and I'm not in that much of a hurry to get it. I'll get one day, but I'm happy with this. This is a 2014 reissue of the album, And as I say, this will probably be the one album. Despite my love of everything heavy metal, I think if push came to shove, this would be the album I would save from the fire. This year though, they re-released, or in fact re-recorded, and it's only really the one original guy, which is David Gedge, but I mean, he is the guy. It's not like a band where everyone leaves and it's a different band. It's a different band, but it's the same engine, same vocalist, same energy with the guitars. I kind of think this is like a kind of a thrash pop as well. And this is the 30th anniversary of this album. Although I believe it was recorded 20 years ago, they decided just to do like a live studio session, do it all in a take. And Steve Albini, Albini was the producer, and it's really well done. I'm not really a big fan of when bands re-record material and put it out again, but this is really good. This shows us like this guy's been playing these songs for 30 years and he's added to them, and some of them are a little bit slower, some are a little bit less harsh, but it's done really, really, really well. So very pleased to pick up that this year. In fact, I went to a gig recently in Glasgow and they played the album from start to finish, and it's the last time they're ever going to do that. So that was brilliant to be there. And on to my last one. I actually thought I pulled out more, but no. So this is going to be strange because I only have one copy of Tigers of Pantang Wildcat, but this is the album I've bought the most copies of any record album. I've probably bought this about 6 or 7 times now, and if you've had VCLT from me, generally this is a staple that I've sent out in them. So I know some people that's out there would, if you're watching this, you've had VCLT from me, you know this album because I've sent it to you. This is an original 1980s pressing. Generally see this or the I think it's the 85 Fame reissue, but every time I see it I pick it up because I know there's somebody else that needs this album in their collection. It's my favourite Tigers of Pantang album by far, but I only have one copy of it at the moment. I'm sure I will buy it again, and I will pass it on again. So you have it, Ronnie. Nice little competition. I hope you get lots of entries for it. I hope you get a lot of additional subs for it. I know there was no particular reason for doing this other than wanting to do a competition. You've got a great channel. I love everything you do is fairly upbeat and carefree attitude to things you show, and always great chatting with you in the comments. With regard to the prizes that you've shown, obviously you're across the Atlantic, I'm here. To me, it's not worth sending something out. I'm not doing this for the prize. I'm doing this for just to help you promote your channel and to get involved. On that, if you decide, I'm quite happy if you don't put me in the hat at the end of it. But if you do and I win, then let me choose somebody nearer you and that can have it as VCLT. In fact, I think the only 2 albums that I looked at that you put up of the 6 or 8 or so were the Metallica and the Megadeth, and I have those already, and I don't need multiple copies of those. So great competition. Good luck with it, and I'll catch up with you in the comments in the future. Cheers. Bye.